Hey folks, welcome to Shadow Empire. This is quite a big and complex game, and I thought that I would just share some of the stuff that I've learned while I've been kind of beta testing it and doing the review that I did. This isn't a tutorial series. If you want one of those, go and check out Daz Tactics series, and I'll link it in the description. But Daz is really good at doing very focused tutorials. This is just to I haven't actually watched that yet, but this is just to, I guess, to complement it by just giving just a few quick tips that might be helpful for players who are new to the game and they're coming across issues. So first of all, make use of the inspection mode. So if you look here, if I hit the M key, this is the move mode that most of you will be using to propel your own units under their own locomotion rather than the strategic move that you can get, right? So, you all know how to move. Now, what you don't want to be doing, let's say, for example, we want to look at Galt here. You don't want to be clicking on this move mode and then going to assets just to see what's under it, because it's quite easy then to accidentally move one of your units without meaning to. Okay, so this inspection mode is designed to allow you to examine what's on anything that's on one of these tiles, including the individual units that you might want to see, but it stops you from having to deal with with this thing, with this movement cursor, and it stops you from making any accidental moves. So I haven't seen people use this very much on the videos that I've seen, so really make use of inspection mode. It's dead important. While we're talking about movement, there's another thing, there's another way that you can maximize the amount that that you can move across your terrain. Okay, so let's just turn on the logistics view so we can see how many logistics points we've got on our roads. Now let's just say that this unit here needs to move to one of our other cities. Let's say we're trying to move it to Austin over here, right? What we could do, and this is the order to do it, use the move mode and move it as far as you can into an area that's got onto an area of your supply network that's got trucks. So you would normal move here, then hit S, and you can then strategic move even further. Look, I mean, I've got good logistics, so I can go right to the end up on this, on this side of the map. So you may find, here's another example. Let's say we want to move this HQ unit. We could move him onto here and then use the strategic move. And he's loaded onto trucks at this point, and then you can move him right across your empire. So the order really is to move, then strategic move. Yep. If you strategic move first, you can't move afterwards. It uses all your action points, so don't do that. Okay, the next thing I think is worth looking at is the strategic map itself. Now this map is really useful. It not only breaks down your explored area into by regime or by zone, so you can not only look at the enemy regimes. Let's say that you have a decision that says such and such minor regime, it has a leader who wants to defect, or you want to support. He's going to become a fifth columnist if you invade them. Well, you want to know who they are and where they are, right? And this map allows you to find them quite quickly without having to sort of search over the all of this and click on territory and try and look down here. Make use of this strategic map. It's really useful. It's designed for this job. Recently they've added, just before release, they added this new stats mode. Now this is really useful. It's used to look for specific types of resources. So if you want to find where your metal is, you can find it on this map. Now let's look at radioactives as an example, and this will explain something else about strategic map. So I'm going to click on here so we can see this little radioactive icon, and it's in the province of Minos. Here it is. Look, it's kind of centered on that tile, and if we look down here, we can see that we've got these radioactives. There's only 820, but relatively easy to extract. Now let's check the other one up here. Now I see a problem here, and you might not see it immediately, but if we go down here, look, we can't see it. It's nothing to do with these radiation markers. What's happened is that the strategic map previously picked up that I'd found some radioactives in this tile here. It's actually in this tile here, and we haven't currently got access to that tile because one of the this minor regime has started moving out. So the strategic map will sometimes show you things that that you might not immediately see. Now, if you actually go back to the regime mode, you'll see here that this little area where that was is actually greyed out now because it's not part of my territory. So anything that you have actually discovered will still stay up on this map. It's important that I just kind of tell you something about the pre-start game modes as well with regards to how the strategic map works. You can change different settings with regards to the fog of war, and how much of the planet is revealed to you at the start of the game and as you expand. Now, if you've got the game set to just partial fog of war, everything on the game is already visible, including all the resources that are across the map. So you may find that when you look at the statistics, this stats tab, you might actually see everything that's on the map, and if that's how you like to play, that's absolutely fine. Bearing in mind that this is a post-apocalyptic game, and it can be played either like a traditional 4X where the map is all blanked out and you can't see anything. If that is the case, then sometimes these borders that you see are going to be inaccurate, because as you kind of move across the map and you roll back this fog of war here, it will show borders, and what happens is the strategic map makes a best guess at where the borders are going, and it will just be like straight lines, and you need to be really careful with those. They're just kind of telling you, look, we've discovered this area, it looks like it goes out in this direction, so we're going to assume that part of the territory is going to be part of that regime. As you get more information, as you roll more of the map back and you get more recon, it will update. So just be aware that it's not always that accurate, and that's by design. You can also break down everything by zones. So if you want to look at a specific zone in either in your own territory or in an enemy territory, you can do that too. Another way that the strategic map's also useful is when you start taking, if you hit the Z key, another one of these order modes is the zone borders. So if we were to start painting the map like this, because we wanted to make this territory part of Galt instead of part of Minos, a good way of seeing how that looks over here is by going to the zones. So if you click on zones, you'll actually see changes that you've made in that zoning will actually reflect in the strategic map. Whilst we're on the subject of zone bordering, if you right click, if you find that it's a bit fiddly, what you want to do is click on an area where it's not zoned by any zoning border. Okay, so like that, right click and then just click zone borders, and then you can left click again. And the way that it works is you have to have some of these areas already tiled in that zone. So you can't just kind of like cut out little slices of a zone in the middle. It has to be currently joined. I think you can see what I mean there if I actually do it. So you see like that. Whereas if I click here or here, it's not going to work. It's not going to work here because we need to go there first. Yeah. Okay, so I just gave you a little extra tip that I wasn't planning on, but yeah, that's worth thinking about too. Point number 4, I'm going to call "Do not trust the combat odds," and there's a reason for this. So let's move some troops in, and let's initiate some combat. Okay, so we've got enough recon now on this particular hex that we can actually see what's in there, but this is not accurate information. So, recon, if you hover your mouse over here, it will tell you that the minimum recon for unit info is 40, and the minimum recon for full unit info is 400. So you need to get 40 just to have a rough idea of what's in here, and you need to get 400 recon on that square, on that hex, in order to get, to know exactly what's in there. And the only way you can get lots of recon is if you get lots and lots of units around it, particularly recon units. Now look, we've now gone up to 67 because we've got these buggies. And buggies aren't bad at recon. They're not as good as motorbikes, but they're not bad. Now, let's initiate a combat. So look, in this particular battle, we've got the option to add these three units here. Now, these we just remove all the attacking forces for a moment. You'll see we've got the eligible forces here. As we add them, what's actually happening is you're adding them from these tiles, and you can click on them here too. And sometimes this can actually be more useful doing it this way, because you can actually see where you're going from. I actually wish that there was a little bit more of an obvious indicator. You can see that they're highlighted, but on my high-res screen that's quite hard to see. So I think that Vic could probably do something here to make this a little bit more obvious maybe, but I digress. So the odds are now 2.8 to 1, which aren't honestly that great odds in Shadow Empire, you know, you're going to take casualties at this, and there's a fair chance that the enemy will still win. Now, these odds are only based on your current recon points. So we've only got 67 out of possible of 400 or more, right? Up to 400 points. Any more than 400, it doesn't matter. You've automatically got the full info, right? But 40 is a minimum you need to see what's on here. Any less than 40, and you'll just get a question mark here. And do not do that unless you've got very, very powerful troops. If you've got a bunch of guys with heavy combat armor and laser weapons, and you're going up against, you know, mutants or something, you know, really not very powerful like that, then yeah, you can go in and you don't have to worry too much because they just can't hurt you. But with, I mean, what are these guys here? Let's just have a look at these units that I was attacking with. So we've got the 5th Light Infantry, we've got grunts. These grunts have just got padded in virus suits and an automatic rifle. They're going to get toasted. These guys have got Gauss rifles and combat armor. They're going to be there. These guys aren't going to be able to hurt them very well. The same goes for the buggies. However, the fact that these guys are in here, and you know, we've got this. I'll just see if I can get this attack screen again. So the odds have completely changed now, just because I've gone at this in a different order. So just be a little bit careful, because the odds are not consistent in this regard. They'll be consistent depending on who you're attacking first with, and they can drastically change. You can lose battles where it says 10-1, so never ever think that this is a dead cert win. I saw people on Tortuga Power's videos giving him some kind of comedy grief over this, because he was looking at 8-1 odds and saying, oh no, I'm not sure about that. And I've got to stand with him here. He's absolutely, Tortuga made those decisions because he's played this game a lot, and he knows that that is not a dead cert win. And particularly on that particular battle he was playing, if you lost any casualties there, that game would have been over really. So, you know, you've got to be really, really careful. Do not trust these odds. You will gain experience into how the odds work as you start playing a little bit more, and at that point you will start to, you'll know what works and what doesn't. You'll know, for example, that even if you're 2-1 against, if you've got, you know, heavy tanks against their light, you know, against these raider guys, you're probably going to win anyway. So but it's not always certain, you know, and entrenchment can make a big difference. So just be really, really careful. Don't criticize. I mean, the game is worthy of criticism in some areas, particularly with regards to how it does hide some of the information away from you, and it's not always that clear about what's going on. However, the combat odds it can be a little frustrating, but you will get used to it. Okay, so that's the combat odds. Don't trust them, and you know, you will learn to use your own judgment. The next one I think that people might miss is, I bet Daz has talked about this in his series, although I've not actually looked at it yet, but I would be surprised if he's missed this, and that is, you need to discover essential technologies in each tier before researching the next tier. Okay, so the way that in Shadow Empire, the way that the research works is that first you have to discover it's all broken into tiers. Now this early tech tier is always researched. Now the basic tech contains some absolutely critical techs, and the way that the research works is first you assign bureaucratic points to your economic and military councils, and at first you want to pump more into discovery. And the reason being is because if let's say that you've started your game and you found automatic rifle, sealed roads, high velocity guns, that's fine. Now those are all really, really useful, and you're going to need them pretty quick, particularly high velocity guns and automatic rifles. However, let's say that you're playing on a planet where where solar power isn't going to be so useful. No, let's start again. Let's say that you're playing on a planet where, you know, you haven't got much in the way of power at all. Like there are no hex perks that you found that have, you know, power generators in them. You're going to need power fairly soon, because generally speaking, right, and I'm going to talk about this in another one of my tips, but you need to get your industrial points up first, and that usually has to come after your water and food, right? So industrial points are really, really important, because once you've got industrial points, then you can start building things that build bureaucracy points, and that will kickstart everything. But if industry starts taking a lot of power, and you need to get your power plants up first. So whether it's solar power, or whether if you've got enough fuel and you can run power plants, you've got to get those going. Also, university, hospital and barracks are exceptionally important in this game. particularly university, but those three are really critical for quality of life in your cities. Quality of life being one of the prime ways that you attract new people into your cities, and it's the only way they grow, really. Natural growth is just not, it works over the long term, but it's very slow. You need to be attracting the free folk into your towns, and you do that by improving quality of life. So, okay, I've digressed, but what you need to do is make sure that you don't research less useful text before you've found the ones that you need in the tiers. Because let's say that you take automatic rifles, sealed roads, and high velocity guns, that will then open 1-2 more tiers. Yeah. Now you're then diluting the random chance that you're going to get one of these power plant or solar energy, and those two really are absolutely critical. One of them is going to be essential to you. So don't do what I do in one of my first games, where I shot my way down the research tree, then hit the mid game, didn't have any way to generate my own power, and my people started starving because all the zone farms went off. So you need to be really, really careful about analyzing your game based on the planet that you're on, and looking, to see what you need. Like in the lava game planet I was playing, water was a bit of an issue. Water is a bit of an issue. Other planets like Seaward class planets, or some of the which is the one that's kind of like the Seth, I forget its name now, but there's another one which is a desert planet that has water on it, but it doesn't really have any life. Now that one you might get quite a lot of water on too, but so getting the water text isn't going to be so much of a critical thing. But you need, like, for example, water purification. If you're on a planet where there isn't much water, like on this game I'm playing on a Seth planet, so there is buried ice, but it will run out eventually. And even though you've got 263,000 available, and you might get quite a lot, it will run out eventually. And also your private sector have a habit of mining it out and selling it, so just be careful. You need to make sure that you can foresee any particular problems you're going to have, and plot your trajectory through the text tree. And there's a little bit of jiggery pokery that needs to be done in order to play with the random element to stack the odds in your favor to get the things that you want. This is not as big a problem as I might be making out. Honestly, once you get used to it, it's really not a big issue. But certainly in the early game, make sure you research everything before. Sorry, you discover the things that you need before you start researching them. Put more money into discovery until you've got the critical things, and particularly, I mean, high velocity guns, power plant, solar power plant, hospital, university, and barracks are absolutely essential. Automatic rifle, I mean, all of these are really, you're going to want them all. And then as you go further down the tree, you don't have to take all of these. In fact, the game will, many planets, particularly if you're playing on a smaller one, the game will be won, by the time you've got down to kind of here. Okay. Another quick, just while I'm here on the subject of research, just remember that all the applied sciences, they work in a different way. You don't have to, you still have to discover them, then research them, but you don't. With the other research, with economic and military council projects, you research them from 0 to 100%, and once you hit 100%, you gain access to the thing that they give you. That's not how applied engineering or applied management or the applied sciences work, right? The applied sciences, the way that they work is that it gives you a gradual benefit depending on how much of it you've researched. So it's a linear research field, and the further up you go, the more benefit you get. So let's say that you're optimizing your armor thickness. If you optimize up to 25%, you'll get 25% of a certain amount of the bonus. So you don't have to get to 100%. In fact, I recommend you don't try. As the tooltips will tell you. Let's just have a look here. Yeah, it says arriving at level 100 will be extremely difficult, and the effects are gradual. So don't think that you've got to reach 100 with this. And also, if you start using one of your other councils to develop one of these, don't be surprised if you're wondering, hang on a minute, why am I not getting any more models being developed, or any more assets? And often it will be because you've selected something that is actually an applied field, and you're gradually climbing this Mount Everest, of research that you require in order to get to 100%. So just bear in mind when you go for these, you need to keep an eye on them. Okay, so that's research. The other piece of advice is you're going to come across this early, and it might be a bit obvious, but you need to secure your essential resources first. Now, there's no hard and fast rule, I don't think. I mean, I've played this game for 100 hours already, at least, and I don't think that there's an optimum way to do it on, that covers all the planets. However, generally speaking, you want to secure your water supply first, then go for food. Now, that is not a hard and fast rule, but generally, I think generally speaking, that's a guideline, because if you've got 200 water, which is usually what you start with, and if you build your farm first, you're going to be dropping down water immediately, and you're going to hit zero unless you can go to the traders and you can buy a lot of water. Now, if you're on a planet like, look at this one here that I'm on. Now, this one is a Seth class planet. There is no water on the surface of this planet. It's all being mined. Now, there is a fair amount at the moment, but later in the game it's going to go. But at least at the start, there may be water for sale, so you can kind of keep yourself going if you do build a dome farm first. But just be aware that generally speaking, you want to go for water first. Secure your water, buy food, and then once you've got enough. Once you've got enough water going, then you want to go for your zone farms, your dome farms. Sorry. Also, don't waste water. Like you will sell any excess up to a point, but if you start digging out loads and loads that you can't possibly use, and you start selling loads to the traders, eventually you'll get this message: water is currently at such a low price that traders have no interest to buy. And at that point, the auto sale will become auto throwing it into the bin. So you will lose water, and you don't want to do that. So you must make use of the these let's click on the, where are we? Not recycling, it's Bell I want. Where are we? Oh, let's just look at the one that's in this. There we go, Bell. Oh, it is recycling, but sorry, there's just water available here. That's why I haven't actually got one available. Let's just find, actually, using the management screen, where my water supply is. Ice mine. There we go. It's at Monarch. So look at this card, right? We're pulling out 440. Now, I'm only using 50% of the production here. There's a reason for this. For a start, you'll only use 50% of the energy that is required. And I think you only use 50% of the workers as well. I'm not certain about that. 200 energy, 1,000 workers. So yeah, so you only use a certain percentage of the amount of workers that you would need if you were working at 100%. You don't want to waste energy and waste worker jobs by throwing water out into the desert. Yeah, it's just a waste of money, and it's a waste of resources. And on a Seth class planet like this one, that's not good, especially in the long term. Hopefully your game will be won before you start running out of water, but you will run out of water if you play for long enough. And some people like to play slowly. Okay, in that case, you need to start going for these techs like water purification. Okay, I don't want this video to be too long, so let's crack on. The private economy. Now, the design idea behind private economy, this was something that Vic talked about in his interview with Explorminate. The private economy is basically there to help you from not having to micromanage everything all the time, and it's much the same design idea that's behind the stratagem cards as well. They're there to prevent massive amounts of micromanagement. So let's look at the public economy. Here we go. We can filter it here. So if we look at one of these dome farms, this dome farm in Letherbridge here, this is feeding your populace. Now, 1 point, never nationalize these unless they're already receiving more food and you are set in your zone orders. Yeah, you've got your people to allow emergency food. If you disallow emergency food and you buy their only food source, your people will starve. I've made this mistake. Don't do it. Okay, so don't nationalize dome farms. It's just not worth it. Build yourself one. Okay, if you can't and you have to, just be aware that you are going to be starving your people unless you allow the emergency food. And even then, that emergency food has to get from your SHQ more often than not. So just you're putting a tax on your logistics as well. So it's just a bad idea to do that. Okay, so what will happen is They've built an arena here. They built a zoo. Some of these are from stratagem cards and from fate points that you can spend. But things like these sewers, they're adding quality of life points, right? Now, if we go to the civilization score here, you'll see that Lethabridge has actually quite a high scores across it. Now, that's partly because I've built my own buildings, my own assets, but it's also because the civilian economy is doing it for you. And you can wait really for the civilian economy to do that. You just bearing in mind it won't often keep up with the growth, and you'll start becoming unhappy. But the reason why this whole private economy is here is really just to take off some of the strain from the from the player. They will build things that you need, and you do get some of them, like for example the dome farm. You are getting some food for your public sector as well. So the public stuff with feeding your troops, feeding your own workers, all of that they do benefit to that, and you get some money. So that's why the private economy is really useful, and it really does help that you can go in there and you can pump money in. If we click on this button here, look, where the population is, it gives you a rundown of all the private jobs, how many funds they've got in order to build things, what they're building next. Look, at Lethabridge, they're building a light industry. Your income tax will affect this. So if you tax them too high, you're going to be getting more money to pay your soldiers, but you're going to be inflicting damage on your private economy. So you've got to balance the taxes out very much. It's really important. Okay. If you've got any problems with logistics whatsoever, there are several tools that you can use, but there is one golden rule: build more truck stations. Right, so let's say you've got a bottleneck. Like, so if you click on this bottleneck tool, this will show you where you've got problems. Now, this map's not the best idea because we've not got a big problem there. Okay, so here, for example, Minos, there's a massive load going out from Minos, sending things in and out of this town. This city. So you can see here, this is where there's a bottleneck. Now, I'm willing to bet that we don't have a truck station here. Let's just have a look. Oh, we do. We've just not got enough trucks, and partly that's because we're supplying a load of our units out this direction. So, firstly, use the bottlenecks to find out where the bottleneck is. Then, let's say that you've got a bottleneck on this. I mean, you can see this is blue and red. This area is also not doing so great. There's a lot of strain here. So you might want to think about building, like in this area, build another truck station. Look, you can see I've actually done that here. This turn I've finished building a truck station because I've got a bit of a problem. So truck stations, they do take where is it? Let's have a look at their upkeep costs. There are 100 workers, so they don't take fuel even, but they take fuel to build. But supply bases will take some fuel to run. But build more truck stations, and you will find that if you have these mystery problems like I was getting in my games, where you just can't figure out why it is that your SHQ isn't getting food out to your people, it's usually because you're building too many things. You're overflowing your trucks, you're flooding your trucks with goods that they have to send out to the various zones, the various OHQs, all the troops that are requesting ammunition and supplies. So firstly, slow down with what you're building. If necessary, drop the production rate of some of your buildings so they're not taking so much supply, and then build more trucks. Eventually you can move on. Once you've got a decent amount of metal, you can start building railroads. And railroads are really, really effective at moving things quickly and very efficiently, but they are a significant investment in metal particularly. So okay, what else have we got? Bureaucratic points. Here's an interesting one, right? So you'll see that political points here, your credits and fate points, these are the main currency resources that you've got in the game. And what I mean by currency resources, I mean that you exchange them for things, right? There is another one that's really important. It's kind of buried away in the reports, and that is bureaucratic points, and it's here. Your bureaucratic points are what go into. It's the currency that your organizations all use in order to do the jobs they've got to do, which is usually creating, generating research or creating stratagem cards, and there's some other things they do as well, like prospecting and that. But you can see here, for example, if we click on the Supreme Command Council, you'll see that we've given it the task priority of 50% for political power generation. So, and it gives you an exact figure of how many bureaucratic points are being assigned. It also tells you exactly what's going on how those bureaucratic points are being spent, you know, and any bonuses you're getting because of leaders. So make use of this organization screen, see how your bureaucratic points are being spent, and keep tabs on them. And like I say, you need to first get water, then get food, then you really want to start looking at industrial metal, sorry, get a supply of metal, then industrial points by building industry, then you want to start building bureaucratic points at that point. That is speaking very generally, and this will change depending on the game that you're playing, so don't take it as a hard and fast rule, but you need to get bureaucratic points pronto. The quicker you develop your bureaucratic point output, the quicker that you will start snowballing with regards to your research, which will give you just the technology that you need to start taking over the world. So bureaucratic points are really important, and here's how you keep track of them. It's in the Empire dashboard, and they're here, and you can get all the bureaucratic points that are going into each of the councils are all available here in this Empire dashboard as well. The report I really like this report screen system. I know not everybody will appreciate it because it kind of does bury information in certain ways, but at the same time, once you understand where everything is, it's actually really cool and it's very immersive. Okay, I've talked about troubleshooting supply problems. The final piece of advice I think here is get to know the user interface, because there is so much stuff in here. Let's just randomly look at something. Let's go into the model part of the management screen. So once you've researched your models and you've built some using the Model Design Council, it starts banging them out into here, right? And you can search, you can look at how they're organized with regards to infantry, all the different infantrymen you've built, bearing in mind that each time you design them, their design changes, so they might, even the same model with the same equipment might have different statistics because because you're improving their quality each time you're redesigning them. There is so much information buried away. That's not fair. It's not buried away. There's so much information here that is presented to you if you take the time to look for it. Okay, so for example, if we click on these grunts, you can see where these particular models are actually located in all of your formations and your units. It's super detailed, man, and there's really, if you work out this user interface very, very thoroughly, you will be able to very quickly figure out what you need to get in this game. For example, you can use, let's say your people are starving. Well, which of my zones have got the hunger? Because I'm an excellent governor, I've not got any hunger problems, but you get the idea, right? Where's the most manpower coming from? Well, let's say, okay, my manpower is mostly in population. I haven't got enough workers. Well, I need to add more workers then, and then you can kind of find which zone it is that is pumping out all these workers, where you might need to change them, where you might need to stop recruiting them from, all that sort of stuff. So just explore this user interface and really get used to it. Look, the order of battle is another one. You can quickly find where your units are using this. So let's just zoom in. Like if we click on these specific units, we can trace them. We find our infantry units, we can find our mechanized units. We've got these are the these are all the OHQs you've got here. We've got independents, and then we've got militia units here. So go through all of these different, all of this stuff that you don't really see people using so much. Like it's all got a use, and particularly the management screen is just exceptionally useful. Broadly speaking, the report screen, you can't really change much stuff here. Generally, this is a report for you just to look through and see all this different information for your different areas of government. You don't get to change much information there. Maybe nothing at all, if I remember right. Whereas in the management screen, this is where you get the option to actually make changes to all that information that you're seeing. So you can sort all the leaders by varying characteristics. You can have a look at the profile, the regime profile options that you've got available. The tech trees here, different types. This is This is kind of the tree of the types, how they unlock. Get to know the user interface. There is so much in here, and it's bewildering at first. It's bewildering beyond belief. But for example, the units. If you click on these unit administration cards, they've all got different options that you can do. If we go to one of the HQ, let's find one of our operational HQs, for example. So here, Okay, so let's click on the operational HQ. And now if you go to unit admin, there's loads of options. Look, you can change the colors of your, you can change the color of the of that formation if you want. So if you want to kind of color code your men better, you can go ahead and do that. That's something you can do. You can change the quality of the troops that are tolerated or disallowed. So tolerated troops will, if they're, if you've got a low quality unit or whatever you're setting, in this case a low quality unit will be tolerated to stay in that unit, but once they're killed or removed, they won't be replaced. It will replace it with only the elite, regular, or high. So you can kind of you can use this to customize which units are getting elite units and which are getting low quality. So if you want an elite battalion for frontline work, or and you've got garrison units that you want to put all your kind of rookie green troops in, you can do that. Okay, this was only supposed to be a short video, so I don't want to go on any further, but yeah, I hope those tips were useful. Just to summarize them: make use of inspection mode, use the strategic map. When you're moving your troops, move them first and then strategic move them. So if you move them onto a road system and then use the road system to move them to where they want to go. Don't trust the combat odds, and just understand that you will get used to it eventually. It's just a matter of you playing the game a little bit, and you'll start to learn what which are realistic odds and which they might look like they're 10-1, but you're probably not going to win it. Discover essential technologies in each tier before researching into the next tier. I can't emphasize that enough. You will have problems if you don't do that. Secure your essential researches first. So generally speaking, water, then food, then metal, then industrial points, then bureaucratic points. But that's not a hard and fast rule, but that's a general guide. The private economy helps you when you can't help yourself. So yeah, just remember that the private economy is there and it's there to help you. If you've got any problems with logistics, stop building things and build more truck stations. Get to know the user interface, and remember that your bureaucratic points are really important and how you can find them. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you found this useful. Go and check out Daz Tactics tutorial series, because he's the best at this stuff. He really, he's really on it. He's the guy that I go to when, if I want to learn a game and I'm a bit confused about things, then I check Daz's I check his tutorials out, because they're always really good. So I'll put a link in the description to those. Okay, thanks guys, and I hope you found that useful. Take care. Bye.